Unfortunately, the internet is being a butt, so I can't have music on in the background for these parts, but oh well, not that big a deal. The next part of the collection, and soon to be I would say that is the semi-finale to this part, is us taking a look at some movies that don't really fit into any category of either. I mean, they were sort of made in the vein of Disney, at least uh, a couple of these were, but for the most part, I couldn't really find a category for most of these, as I don't have enough from a certain studio or a certain release department for them to really matter. So we're going to take a look at Babe. Now, I grew up with primarily Disney films to watch, but there was one film that I watched as a kid that I could not get enough of that wasn't Disney related, and that was this one. This was somebody's, unfortunately. But hey, what you gonna do? Babe, in case you don't know, is the story of a pig that gets brought to a farm and, well, the bizarre adventures he goes on. It is an absolute treasure of a film because there's just so much stuff that can go wrong in a movie like this that goes right, and I'm just so happy that that so much love and care was put into a movie like this. So much so that I wouldn't even know where to begin. I mean, this is probably the perfect kids movie, all things considered. It's not too long, it's not too dark, it's not too sad, but it's not too cheesy and comical. It's a perfect balance of good, bad, and all the good things wrapped up into one. It's a treasure, man. It's a treasure. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was probably the last real... Oh, like Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. It was probably one of the last real attempts, alongside Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, to really keep the whole movie musical thing alive. Because movie musicals were sort of going out of style in the early 60s. And then Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music sort of revitalized that. So you're sitting there and you're like, oh well, we'll make one about a magic car, so it can fit right in with like Mary Poppins and all that. But the problem with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is its length. It's 2.5 hours long. On top of that, it's a little bit of an over the top movie. This was probably the one where I would say I probably enjoyed a lot as a kid. As I get older, I start to see more of the holes and the flaws in it. But, like, I love the music in this movie. It's some of the best music in movies that I've seen in a long time. And yes, I could be biased because the Sherman Brothers wrote the music for this. In case you don't know, the Sherman Brothers also wrote the music for Mary Poppins. I believe they wrote it for Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Most of the songs of The Jungle Book. And yeah, they were basically a Disney staple for about a decade there, right before, about 20 years before Ashman and Menken would come along and revitalize musicals once again. The Secret of Nim. Now, this to me is a movie that I don't think gets as much love as it deserves. For those of you who don't know, this was based on the book Miss Frisbee and the Rats of Nim, which is about a group of rats that were experimented on in a lab and were given essentially the mental capacities of humans. And basically what comes from that. The story itself, when I read it as a book in the 6th grade, it wasn't that gripping. The movie itself, though, is fascinating. And this was made around the time when... Well, this was the first movie that Don Bluth made after he left the Disney studios. And he wanted to tell more adult stories, and it really shows in this one because he didn't make this overly kiddie. It wasn't overly good and sweet. It's a dark movie in some instances. The most important thing about this story is that it focuses on a mother trying to make sure her baby boy doesn't die of an illness. And to be honest, like I said, this is just to me, it's just a treasure of a movie. And I think it deserves a lot more praise. Is it Don Bluth's magnum opus? I wouldn't say that, but I think it's his best film. So you know how I had a post on Facebook a couple of weeks ago about how I believe, actually a couple of months ago at this point, about how I believe there's a difference between a magnum opus and the best. For example, I think Pinocchio is the best Disney film, period, that Walt Disney made, but I think Fantasia was his magnum opus. I think Beauty and the Beast is the best overall Disney film ever made, but I believe The Lion King is their magnum opus. So for Don Bluth, I'd say The Land Before Time is his best film, but this is his magnum opus. Which is weird, because usually you do the magnum opus afterwards, but I digress. Anastasia is up next. I have a weird relationship with this movie. A very weird relationship. This is one of my sister's all-time favorite movies. And I'm on the fence with it. It is absolutely one of the most gorgeous animated films out there. But I really don't like the fact that they overly... Oh, I have ancillary stuff to look at. Cool. Put that to the side for a minute. I don't like the fact that it's overly Disney-ish. Like, I wouldn't have minded it. I don't mind it being a musical at all. In fact, some of the songs in this are some of the best that I've heard in any story. I mean, Once Upon a December is one of the most haunting melodies I've ever heard in a movie, and rightfully so, I adore it. But I don't, as someone who was so fascinated with the history of the Russian Empire as I was as a kid in high school, it kind of, oh, this ripped up. This definitely ripped up. Let's see what's in here. Oh, hello. Shirley Temple. But long story short, as I was fascinated with the history of the Russian Empire and the fall of the Romanovs, to see it done so Disney-ish, I guess would be the right word, it's kind of insulting. It's Fox Family Channel, which doesn't exist anymore. It became the ABC Family Channel, and now it is Freeform. Wow, I can't even see any of this because of how folded it is. Come on, let's see. Oh my God, these are so folded. We're not even going to be able to take a look at this. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best I can, but it is not cooperating. I'll have to flatten that out somehow. But yes, Anastasia, I enjoy the animation in it. I enjoy the music in it. I just do not like the story. To me, like I said, I was so fascinated with the fall of the Romanovs that to see that they turned what actually could have been a really compelling story about the fall of the Romanovs into a wizard did it, and a wizard that was dead before the Tsar even abdicated, to be honest, was a little bit insulting to me. But again, like I said, it was a kids movie, and it's better to own this Fox Kids movie than to own Ice Age. But I digress. Going from a movie that I have a very wishy-washy relationship to going to one of the greatest motion pictures ever made. I'm not joking. The Prince of Egypt is, if it were not for The Lion King, it would be the greatest animated film ever made. I don't even kid when I say that. This movie is a miracle. That it has so many ridiculously out of place celebrities playing roles that you'd think, oh my God, this is just going to be ugly. This is not going to end well at all. But no. Somehow, a print date of May 19th, 1999, somehow, DreamWorks' first original movie, which is an animated version of the Ten Commandments, is... My God, this movie is incredible. If you ever have an opportunity to see this movie, please go see it. or please see it. Watch it. Do this. It's just a marvel. Every single scene in this movie works. One of the things about the Ten Commandments that kind of always rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm talking the Cecil B. DeMille one, was the fact that it didn't really give much of a relationship between Moses and his stepbrother, the Pharaoh. I think they were cousins in that one. I don't know. Either way, there wasn't really much of a relationship between them, so it wasn't... granted, Ramses in that is a fantastic villain, but it's more or less just like a standard Hollywood bad guy role. He's just, I am over-the-top villain, and I won't free the Hebrews, and all that. But this movie does such a good job depicting the relationship between Moses and Ramses when they were kids that it's sort of heartbreaking to see what goes on between the two of them when they realize we love each other, but we're on opposite sides. And one of them is under the anointment of God, and the other was raised to believe that he was a god on earth. So I can't praise this movie enough. It is, like I said, if it were not for The Lion King, this would be the greatest animated film ever made. Case flipping closed. Next up is Shrek. What are you doing in my swamp? And all that crap, but I can't do a Mike Myers impression, so. Shrek. What do I have to say about Shrek? It's Shrek. Shrek, 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 Shrek. I was a 6-year-old kid when this movie came out in theaters in 2001, and oh my lord, was this movie incredible. I don't think I laughed that much at a movie ever. But of course, Shrek 2 came out and was even better, but honestly, this movie has aged a lot better than I thought it would. Do you have a print date? Yes, you do. Wow, a late one, jeez. May 28th, 2004. That's a late one. I think that might actually make this one of the later tapes that I own. Might give, It might give my SpongeBob tape a run for its money, but I digress. But yes, Shrek is Shrek. Shrek is love. Shrek is life. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on. Go play. Let's switch to Pokemon now. Pokemon the movie 2000. Now, I saw almost all of the Pokemon movies when they first came out. I don't think I saw all of them in theaters, but I saw enough of them in theaters. I know I saw this one in theaters, I saw the Mewtwo Strikes Back in theaters, and a few other ones, but for the most part, I saw a lot of them. I was a big Pokemon kid growing up. And this was one of them that I saw in theaters. For those of you who are not in the know, no print date, Pokemon the movie 2000 is about Lugia and how its relationship exists to prevent basically warring and fighting going on from the 3 legendary birds, Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres. And how there is a chosen one who, I wonder who it is, will be destined to save the world from evil and all that. I could have sworn, when I watched this the other day, and I could have sworn that the collector in this movie, I can't think of his name, the guy that's going out trying to catch the legendary bird so he can catch Lugia for himself, I could have sworn he was played by Billy Zane, but evidently he wasn't played by Billy Zane, which is weird. In case you don't know who Billy Zane is, shame on you. He is Billy motherfucking Zane, and he deserves all the love. But I do appreciate this movie. I appreciate this movie. That's pretty much all I have to say. Next up, we will take a look at the last part of the collection, which is basically the Rugrats and SpongeBob collection.